The case that I heard was Vernonia School District in Oregon versus James Acton. Um, this case actually made it all the way to the Supreme Court in 1995, and it basically upheld um, public schools' rights to have drug screening, drug tests, random drug tests of their students. Little history behind the case: the school had seen a rampant increase in drug abuse, in particular to their student athletes. Some of their athletes had even been harmed through drug abuse, overdosing. So the district decided, it was spearheaded by a football coach and a wrestling coach, and they decided they had to do something about their student athletes, um, their well-being. So what they decided was they would bring in drug dogs, speakers, and they would try to uh, implement a prevention and awareness program uh, with limited success. So then the school district implemented a drug testing policy. Um, the express purpose of the policy was to help prevent students from using drugs and to protect their health and safety, and to also provide them with counseling. Now, that was actually a big deal because um, when the Supreme Court ruled on it, they used that justification um, as as a way to uh, say that the students' Fourth Amendments weren't being violated. Okay, so what was the testing? Basically, every student athlete that signed up for a sport had to sign a waiver and consent form and say, "Yeah, I will have this done." And every single student athlete was tested or is tested. And then during the season, 10% are randomly selected. If they're positive, then they have two choices. They can take a 6 week drug testing and counseling program, or they can set that season out plus the next year's. So the violation of the Fourth Amendment. Um, if you don't know what the Fourth Amendment is, it's basically it's the legal search and seizure, and this case was um, brought about because the parents of James thought that this violated his Fourth Amendment rights. Um, does random testing violate the reasonable search and seizure clause of the Fourth Amendment? So, who is this kid? He's a seventh grade boy who wanted to play football. Um, his parents thought it was absolutely crazy that he would have to submit to a drug test and then possibly a random drug test for the next 5, 6 years that he was in sports. So they would not sign the consent forms. They got help from the ACLU and they filed a suit on the grounds of violation of the Fourth and 15th Amendments. The federal district court upheld the school's policy and said there was no violation. Um, when the appellate court heard the case, they reversed the decision and said that it did violate not only the Fourth and 15th Amendments, but also the Oregon Constitution. So this case makes it all the way to the Supreme Court on March 28th, 1995, and the Supreme Court overruled the appellate court and said that the safety of the students outweighs the privacy. So, what was some of the um, justifications for this? Um, Basically, school officials are state officials, so they act as parents in place when the children are in school. So they have the right to safeguard the children in their care. Um, Basically, also the court cited that, hey, we screen kids for all kinds of things, hearing, um, scoliosis, um, sight, um, and then we ask them to take a medical exam, physical, before they go into sports in the first place. Um, They also justified this that the collection of urine, the way that the school had implemented, was very limited in the privacy. Uh, the Supreme Court even looked at it, saying that student athletes, by nature, have less privacy um, when they sign up for sports because of things like the locker room, and they volunteer for this. That was a kind of a big point that they were making. The school featured various safeguards for the collection of the samples, as I said earlier. So they weren't going to violate the privacy, or there wouldn't be any problem with the collection. And on the basis of this, um, they said that the policy was not a violation because the school was basically looking out to protect the students while they were under their care, and thus it was constitutional. So, what are the implications of this? Well, the court has actually heard a couple other cases, and they've expanded this to all extracurricular activities. Um, so, schools can implement drug testing, and some schools are even testing non athletes and non extracurricular activities at this time. Although some people think that they're setting themselves up for more lawsuits. Something interesting that I found was that research is really, really mixed. And in fact, um, most show that this doesn't work, especially standalone. If you just have a drug testing policy, it doesn't work. It's not a deterrent. Um, what they found, most studies have found, is that the school climate and culture and the school life is a much bigger indicator whether or not there will be um, drugs in the school or not. Um, Testing is very costly. It's like $30 or something a pop every time that one is submitted, um, and it shows little to no long-term effectiveness. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has come out against it just recently. Um, I guess my thoughts on this. The problem I see is that drug testing, um, it doesn't test like the most abused drug that there is, um, which is alcohol. Um, so there's a real negative for me. Um, Also, it's not shown to be cost effective at all. Um, According to the AAP, they cite that there's only like one out of 125 um, that come back positive. Well, you could say, okay, well that's one kid that maybe we could keep from being, um, addicted to drugs. But what they cite and what I see is a good example is cost efficiency of the money. So maybe you could take the thousands of dollars that you're using to implement the drug tests, and it could be spent on improving the school's culture. So, um, just my thoughts on it. The case itself is more of an implication that if a school district does want to implement a random drug test, they can. It doesn't violate a student's Fourth and 15th Amendment rights.